Okay, perfect. With me today is Kurt Scheuermann. Kurt is a senior safety advisor, trainer and assessor and behavioural safety specialist who has worked in the construction industry for 17 years and has worked on some of the biggest projects in Australia. Welcome, Kurt, and thanks for joining me today.
Yeah, no worries. Thanks, Christy. Thanks for having me on board.
Okay, now, Kurt, you've just left your role as a safety advisor and trainer and assessor to embark on an amazing new chapter in your life, which we'll get to soon. But I first wanted to discuss what you've been doing up to this point. How did you find yourself in construction?
Oh, I suppose years ago, probably going back that 17 years ago on the east coast here of New South Wales, there's a lot of rail upgrades going on. And I sat down and took an interview to do some rail construction work. So it was from around the local sort of Coffs Harbour, Grafton area, sort of mid-north coast. And remember us lads going through, getting invited through our, putting our resume out there. Then the interview phases and stuff like that, sat down with the rail teams that we're going to be working with and ended up getting a gig and, worked in rail construction, which was, new for me. I'd done a lot of work before, like, I was a tyre fitter. I've worked on farms when I was younger growing up. I've helped mates, building housing and stuff like concreting, into everything, having a crack, but never in a specific sort of field. And stepped into the rail construction, which was great.
Now, could you tell us about the changes that you've seen over the years?
Oh, there's been massive changes because when I look at when I first started doing stuff, I remember when I was 18 years old, I was working with mates in a construction firm and they were local sort of builders and that. We used to go away doing jobs. And I remember back then, in regards to safety, it was pretty well, null and void in a lot of ways. I remember one early morning up in Stanthorpe, it gets cold up there and working up on top of RHS beams and walking out, purlins to put purlins down and screw them in and stuff like that. And you're up about 4 metres in the air, no harness, no, scissor lift EWP or anything like that. So back then, it's come a long way, which needed to, you know what I mean? And it's all for the betterment of people, making sure they go home safe. So, it has come a long way, but, we still are people going to work and people are still getting hurt or killed, So, end of the day, in an ideal world, we shouldn't have safety. Everyone should be safety. Like me, I wouldn't have a job as a safety advisor if everyone was doing the right thing. But, we make choices as we do as humans, and sometimes they're not the best choices.
Yeah, definitely. I think a lot of people just make some really bad choices. They're quite reckless in their actions. So how do you find that on site? Like, what sort of behaviour do you see?
9 times out of 10, guys and girls come to work. No one wants to get hurt, and they don't want to hurt their teammates. You know what I mean? It's sometimes the other thing with aspect like we learn now more is, how they arrive to work, what's going on behind the scenes. They might be having relationship breakups. Their minds are elsewhere. Financial issues. Can't see their kids. A lot of times there's a lot of unforeseen factors. But there is a lot of reckless stuff out there as well. Like people take risks as humans as we are at times. We're all risk takers at times. Take a shortcut or do this and do that, and sometimes not with the best outcome. So I think too, like a lot of the time, male-dominated industry. Not having to go on my brothers and that out there, but a lot of ego too in the workplaces. Like she'll be right, mate, and that mentality. Well, sometimes she won't be right, and so just getting them to think a bit more about themselves, about their family, about their kids, and about their actions out there to keep themselves safe. So that's the big thing for me.
So given a lot of things that happen are based on their situations outside of work, what do you think employers and the government can do to help with that situation?
I think there's a lot of good things in place already. I think in the workplace sphere, like the people, you got your EAP, which are your helplines and stuff like that. When I was with Lang O'Rourke, we've got mental health champions and stuff where people can come and have those conversations if they're struggling with that. There's mates in construction. There's a lot of good forums out there where people can go and get help and assistance. Probably one of the best projects I worked on with that was we worked on a project in the Pilbara for Rio Tinto, and I was working for Calibre, which was an EPCM at the time, and we had an eye care program, and it was great. We had a project there. I was there for about 18 months. We had a few incidents and accidents early in the piece, but there was alignment with everyone, and we actually genuinely cared about the guys out there and the girls, and put things in place. So if people were having financial problems, we'd empower them with getting them financial. That we get people up that are financial advisors from Perth that would fly up and have training and programs where they could do that. You know what I mean? With end of job construction industry, projects they start and finish. Doing resumes and stuff like that on the camp. They could do FaceTime to their families. We had a cafe there for them where they could go outside of work instead of going to the wet mess or, going to the dining hall. They could actually go to the cafe and have a milkshake and play a bit of pool or, connect that way, So, and we get speakers up, like motivational speakers like Kevin Sheedy or people up on site and that as well, And I think we had Danny Green there one time as well, and doing Oxford. Everyone was all involved, and it was a great project, and everyone genuinely cared about each other. And I think that's what, when you care and when you build relationships that are based, like in anything in life, on trust and, respect and all those good values, you'll get good things out of it. And that's what happened there, because everyone, genuinely cared. You asked how they were going. It was more about building relationships. It's not so much, there's safety, but there's actually relationships with each of those workers out in the workplace. A lot of times I go, how was your time away for the week with your family? How's Johnny going? How's the wife going? What did you get up to? And you start that conversation, then you talk in, then you lead into, they're open and comfortable. They'll talk to you about things. They'll raise issues with you that they think that's unsafe. Or if they've got the power themselves, they'll raise it, at the pre-start of the morning or in a safety meeting. And that's, I think when we genuinely care about them in the workplace, and you build those relationships, you'll get great outcomes because everyone's all in alignment, you know what I mean? They're not just it's not a number, they're actually valued, and they are valued. They're the people that build our jobs, so without them, we can't succeed.
Absolutely. And I think relationships are really, really important. But how did your safety journey start, and where did you find your passion for safety?
Well, it sort of started a long time ago. Like I remember when on that rail job I was talking about, I had a safety incident myself in a track machine on the railway. And I was sort of, young, and I was in the industry, and when you're like that, there's training and stuff like that involved. So I've just been trained up to operate a track machine. So I had my TMA, which is track machine operators, certificate and that. And we'd have protection officers and stuff that looked after us. And, on that day we were doing everything within our sort of limits. But on that day I was in a lead machine. I was sort of, new to it, a little bit vulnerable on that as well. Yeah, I felt, competent in what I was doing, but at the time I was meant to have someone in the actual machine with me that morning, and I didn't have a person in beside me in the machine and a protection officer. And it was a wet morning, and we're up in Craven, which is up near Gloucester, so you can imagine the middle of winter, wet, low light, low visibility. So I've gone through the first set of points. We're talking rail talk here. So first year, they're set in my favour. I'm right to go through. And I was going down to the next set, and I was called up by the protection officer that was looking after the track, and he said, "Yeah, no, you're right to come through. You're right to proceed." So I went to proceed, and then when I got to the points, they actually closed against me. So, which is where you could derail, and visibility wasn't the greatest. It was an old machine. I put that in my pre-start. The visibility wasn't that good in it and stuff like that. And it was very foggy. So by the time I saw it and I put the brakes on in the actual machine to pull it up, it actually skidded through the points. So, which was called a SPAD. So, end of the day, it was an incident because I could have derailed and stuff like that. So anyhow, getting called up. But when that happened, I was like 5 days out of the machine. There was all the investigation side of it, stories and that. And there were some stories that weren't true and correct. And it's sort of people looking after each other. It sometimes happens, within business, people look after people and whatnot. And sometimes I don't like to call it like a purple circle, but there's, that bit of people get looked after, and we don't learn anything by that. You know what I mean? We're better off being open, transparent, open everything up. We can have a good look into it and come up with some good solutions and outcomes. So anyway, lo and behold, I was out for 5 days and going through the whole process. It was quite arduous, and I got a bit interested with it, and then just went about my work normally. And then later on, after that job, I worked at the water reclamation plant in Coffs Harbour. So we were all working there in a joint venture. And guys in the field, I'd be able to speak up and, speak up for safety, and good at mediating and talking to people. So They put me in as a safety rep, so I did a bit of safety reps training and stuff like that. Then once that job finished, I worked at Boral in Grafton, so construction materials and stuff. So it was a quarry, so we get materials for the quarry and that for the local areas, aggregates and sand and stuff like that out of the actual local river. So we had barges and dragline cranes and actually a big crushing plant and that on site. So I looked after the production side of it and the crushing. So I had to do all the safe operating procedures, and that's when I got my trainer assessors a ticket and stuff like that, and just evolved from there. But I think the key thing was years ago in the Pilbara when I went back to rail. So I'd done the East Coast stint working rail, and one of my mates rang me up. He said, "Mate, would you like to come over to the Pilbara and do some rail work?" And it was a supervisor that I had worked with before, and we adults and that we'll have our beg to agree or disagree, and we sort of butted heads a few times about stuff because I'm open to speak up, and if I don't agree with it, I'll put my hand up and I'll say it, And anyway, he rang me up and he said, I want to come over for a gig, and I said, yeah, may as well. I'll ask my partner then at the time, and I asked her, and I had 2 young kids, and yeah, he said, yeah, you want to come over? I said, well, yeah, why not? I'll give it a go. And I asked my partner, and she was, all for it, a bit of a goal and put some money away and come home for, a house and bits and pieces like that. Set us up in a good space. Went over there, we worked with BHP, and our rail team was sort of a ragtag, a lot of misfits, a lot of construction lads, but you had, your Māori, local TI boys and stuff like that, Yugoslavian, yeah, there was Cook Islanders, it was just a melting pot, and along with Aussie lads and women and stuff like that. So went about it. Our safety culture to start with was pretty poor, to say the least, because obviously, pretty rough and ready, and I can do that, and a lot of ego and bits and pieces there and that. And we had a fair few incidents, and there was a program within BHP, which was in their projects, and it was called the Mates Program. And I sort of knew a lot of the lads from the East Coast that I work with, and I'm pretty easy going, and I'll have a chat to people and out there in the workplace and make it fun and light. And, anyway, I got asked if I'd like to be a mate's sort of mentor. So you do these behavioural-based observations out in the field, and started doing that and getting amongst our guys, and we started going really well, and the guys were taking it on board, and people were doing observations on each other, and our safety culture got better, and we won Mates Contractor of the Month 3 months running, and it was all on the back of just empowering each other. Everyone, well, safety is important. We need to go home at the end of the day. Our incidents went from nearly to zero. The guys there felt empowered too because they were finding things, trends and stuff, and we were using that as a crystal ball. So their little sheets would say like, mad issue here with dust at the moment because, what's going on. So we'll look at that, and then there was stuff around when we were doing our welding or cutting rail and stuff like that, a little bit light on with PPE or, the fire safety equipment, so they could put that in the box. So these are the things that we needed. So it was measurable. We could go back and say, yep, we need more, blankets, fire blankets, we need more fire extinguishers, we need this, we need that, PPE, face masks and stuff. So it was all tangible. And then the guys with that too, they had a voice. So we'd go to these big meetings and they'd have all the bosses in there. So you'd have like the head of BHP for projects and stuff like that, and there'd be their safety team and construction managers and all that in there. And these guys, I used to bring them along to a meeting. So it'd be like an hour, 2 hour meeting, but then they had a voice. They could bring things up and say, look, we need this, we need that. And then our construction managers and our people were held to account. So your guys are saying they need this. We need this in the workplace, you know what I mean? And it was good. So it sort of set the tone, and people could see how I was with people. And I had my trainer assessing stuff there at the time. So I was doing rail work. I'd be there running around like a blue-ass fly some days. So I'd be there, might be cutting track or whatever, or helping guys weld offside, or I'd be in a track machine doing stuff. And then they'd be saying, oh, Kurt, can you VAC this person on that? And, on the rail saw, can you VAC them on this? And, so I was all over the place and doing a lot of training and assessing because I had my ticket and all those rail skills from working previously. And yeah, it was good, but they could see the safety side of it and the value, and could see something in me, and I really valued that. And they said, well, how about you go get your safety cert and then help me with that? And that was sort of the ball roll, and then just went from there.
It's amazing. And I think it's really important to have somebody that's going to speak up when it comes to safety, and that person, to lead the sort of way. And, you're the sort of person that speaks up and really drives that sort of culture. But when you go to a new site How do you start that culture conversation with everybody? Because obviously it's a new bunch of guys, a new bunch of women, a whole new team coming together. So how do you get that culture started from ground zero on each new site that you go to?
I think the first thing we need to do with that sort of stuff when you come into first site, and with the most recent role, it's different because there's that many different contractors and stuff like that. I think you need to get in early. You need to get your message in early, and you need, like you need alignment. So you need everyone to buy in to what you. It's like a product you sell, like a brand name, whatever. You need all those guys buy in, but not the people on the ground so much too. You need your people at the top to buy in and then drive it from the top back down and back up. You probably heard those conversations that before, but getting everyone in, everyone committed, everyone all on the same sort of song sheet, and sometimes that's hard because at the start of a project, and they want to get things kicked off and going, it's like breakneck speed. I think, those initial probably 3 or 4 months before we get actually into the project itself, go through all those things at the start, and then you're set up for success. You know what I mean? You get all that alignment early, getting people meeting each other early, doing a few activities and starting to build those relationships already. And yeah, and the big thing is with people, you need to be whatever you're saying. You've got to have that integrity too and say, well, look, I'm going to back you. And when they say that you're going to back you, back them, and because that builds those relationships too. So after a while, like anyone, it's like we have in our politicians and stuff. They might talk a good game at the start. We're going to do this for you. We're going to do that. And then when it comes to the crunch, you hear nothing from them, or they go away from that. And that's, people see that and they go, well, you said you're going to do this, but you're not. Then you slowly lose them. So you need that alignment early. And I think, and the big thing is that you care about them, and that they matter. And, these are the guys doing the job day in, day out. Bring all that experience you got, bring it to us. Tell us what you learned. Give us some ideas. Throw it out there. Yeah, we could do it this way. We could do it that way. We need to be open too to what they're putting across to us.
Yeah, I think you make a really good point, because I think people really need to, walk the talk when it comes to safety, and you really do rely on everybody around you. So, it can be really challenging to get that buy-in, but I think, when there's somebody that's leading the way and charging forward, then, that's a really positive culture to start out with a project. Now, your latest project was the Pacific Complete from Woolgoolga to Ballina Upgrade, which is a massive road infrastructure project. And you've also worked, as you said, for Rio Tinto and BHP over in the Pilbara. So what's it really like to work for these really large infrastructure projects?
Oh, it's good. Like there's a lot of good things that go on there. A lot of different people you get to meet. It brings money into the local economy and stuff like that as well. It leaves legacies for the local community. Obviously, this new one that I've been on is, the whole idea is to make the road and get it done and make it safe for the road users, because, Pacific Highway has been a death trap for many years and a lot of black spots and stuff like that. And, the saying with our team was driven to save lives, and that's what we're driven to do in the paddock when we're out in the workspace, but then to get that highway open. So these big projects, there's a lot of great things in them. And just given a lot of skills too. Like, I think it's great because where I am now on this project here, I'm not there anymore, and I finished a couple of months ago. But what I really loved about it was I was seeing a lot of my mates, because I spent a lot of time around here and then moved away back up to Queensland when I had a separation with my ex-partner, then, from FIFO and stuff like that. So it has its effects working away and that as well. And, I was up in Queensland. I moved back down for this. But, my young fella, he went through Protect, which is labour hire. He come on site. I actually inducted him. So things I love is seeing like my young fella like that, but then his mates, and then people in the local community that I played football with, or I might have worked with at Boral, or who I know. I'm seeing mums and dads I know. I'm seeing, daughters and sons and that on the project. I think that's great, and they're getting skills. You know what I mean? And it's helping them kick off on the way. But yeah, these big projects are brilliant. Like, obviously, we've got to move forward and we've got to evolve, not only in safety, what we're doing in life, and we need that infrastructure in place. But there's so many great aspects of it. So, yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome, because obviously, these projects are massive, but to have people that working on them and people from the local community just makes it that much more special, I think.
Yeah, it does. There was like with this recent one, like when I first come here on this project, and I was up at Woodburn to start with, and it was funny because one of my old rail safety days, safety advisor was working for C Civil, and he was their safety advisor. So there's already conduits there, there's already relationships there that have been forged, and it's great. And other projects you've been on, there'll be people and construction industry is a small world when you think about it. When where we in Australia and stuff like that compared to the expanse of the world, but in Australia it's a small world. And the amount of people you cross paths with, it's great.
Absolutely. It's amazing how close knit it is. Now, you spoke just before briefly about the challenges of FIFO and, family and things like that. So, what do you think, I suppose, people can do to bridge that gap between the challenges of working away and then having their family and being able to enjoy that, and for them to not feel isolated from you as the worker?
I think that's a very it's a tough question because each individual's, I suppose, different the way they perceive it or the way they look at it. I think sometimes the rosters that they have, like the days of the 4-on-1 roster and stuff like that, that puts a lot of pressure on families, being away. I can understand it from a commercial sense, and people want to build these things, so the more time that you're there, it's going to get knocked over, time frames and deadlines and stuff like that. But, at the end of the day, we need to take away that and think of the what it is on the human expense and on our people and stuff. So, more friendly rosters. So, maybe 2-on-1s and stuff like that, 2-and-2, those sort of rosters. I think too, a lot of companies do it well on that, is just to do with mental health and wellbeing, getting involved in that. Like today, like we're doing this interview now where we can talk, that's the wonderful thing of the way we've evolved in that sense. Like we can speak to each other. I can see you, you can see me, we can chat. And that's great to be able to have those times and do that with your kids and your family while you're away, so that make that free to the guys to use, when they're away. That service is there, plus programs there, like in some of these places, and I know they do it well. They have people where you can go and have a chat to them if you're not feeling the greatest, or you can have those conversations in confidentiality, but also if there's an issue there, we raise it up the line to make sure our people are looked after. There's that many things. And then yourself, like I know myself, like I used to, when I was first over there, I'd get there and we're all emotional beings and we have a choice, we have a choice to look at things negatively, positively, whatever. But I used to get on the drink pretty hard. I used to eat my emotions because that's what I used to be. Like I'd have get on the chill and have a few beers with the mates and that connection there, because I wasn't having the connection I was being away from me family. And it really hit home for me. I was quite large. I ended up like 196 kilos and I was pretty much eating my emotions, still go to work and still do my stuff and, get around all right. But visibly, it was taking its toll and not seeing my kids and stuff. And it was funny. Once someone said to me when I was working away on a project, it's time to go home, Kurt. You got to go home when you swing. And I was sort of like daunted about going home to my family. I sort of thought about it. I felt more at home in that environment than what I did in my own home environment. And that's what sparked, well, hey, there's something not right here. What's going on, buddy? I think just support mechanisms and just a really good roster and just making sure, even with stuff like that, like I think Rio over there, they used to get their family flown up for the day and see where dad works and stuff like that, so they can get a bit of an insight, because they're on the other side of the country or they're down in Perth and they hear about dad working away and they see these pictures and stuff like that, but actually to give them a bit of a feel, and then that gives them a bit of understanding, and then maybe the partners can see, well, no, they're not, every night doing this, they're not doing that, have that bit of big thing. It's compassionate for you, like, yeah, he's away, like he must miss his kids, or she must miss her kids, or whatever. Just think outside yourself for a minute and think what they might be going through, and have that compassion for others. And then the same when we're away, you miss your kids, you love your kids, you miss your partner. It's
Yeah, it's super tough, and I don't think there's an actual right answer, but I think there's probably a lot that can still be done to make people, have that personal connection and to not lose that.
Yeah.
And speaking about personal connections, you've just made a huge decision regarding your career and future. So could you tell us a little bit about what you're going to be doing and how that came about?
Well, how it came about, that's what I love. People might call me a bit airy-fairy out there or whatever, but I believe in, like quantum physics, and what you put out there is what you get back, and the universe has always got our back. And And it was funny, I've been off for like a month, and I don't know what it's like to be off work because I've always worked, you know what I mean, from a young age. And having a month off, I'm going stir crazy. I'm walking around in circles and going all right. But you know what I mean, I'm itching to get back in the workplace or do something. And we're at the shops in Coffs that I was at Woolies, and one of my local brothers, Daniel Hoskins, I played footy with him, and he's a good mate, and we always have a yarn and catch up, and you know, friends on social media and stuff like that. And referee a bit of football, he referee my kids in a game of footy, or I'd see him out and about, and we always connect. And he's my brother. We were walking through the shops. He goes, "What are you up to, brother?" I said, "Oh, not much. I'm just at the moment, you know, looking for work, and I've been putting in for a few different things, and I put in for some work training assessing up in Brisbane, and the contract there fell through, and then with all COVID and the borders and stuff like that, so it's sort of hard for me. I'm in New South Wales to go there." He said, "Brother, I've got a job for you." He said, "You'd be perfect at it." And it's something I've been thinking about a lot in the past too. So here's this, you know, universe working your way and attracting things and stuff. And I've always wanted to help youth or young men or young women or disadvantaged people that haven't had the best start in life and, you know, traumatic backgrounds and stuff like that. And that's pretty much myself, like where I am today. And I want to help others, you know what I mean? Like I was out of home at 16, you know what I mean, in the big world, and come from, you know, having an abusive stepfather and stuff like that. And, you know, tools to get through life and stuff. And I'm thinking, you know, if I can make an impact or if I can help others, this is a start. So anyway, he said, "I'll get onto the HR team. I'll give him a ring and I'll, you know, send through your resume. Send through your resume to me." I said, "No worries, Dan." And I sent through the resume. And I'm thinking, yeah, I might hear something because I just, you know, I didn't try to attach myself to it. I thought, yeah, no, it's lovely. Hopefully something comes out of this. Come the Friday, I'll get a phone call, you know, and then the Monday I'm having a phone interview with them and stuff like that, just over the phone. And they want all these details of what I've done, more of my resume, my certificates, you know, what I'm about. End up going from there, sitting down through like a panel interview with them, and sat down through there. And I had to go through all these checks. So obviously you're working with kids and that and vulnerable. So there's, you know, working with children check, national police check, all that sort of stuff. So there's a lot of bureaucracy and paperwork, which is needed, you know what I mean? Because these young ones are vulnerable and that, and there is people out there that do the wrong thing, you know, and have got records and stuff like that. So we need to make sure they're safe. So did all that come back through. I've just been the last week, done a lot of training. I've had 2 shifts in like a shadow shift situation with working with some young kids and that, you know, and both days I just loved it. You know what I mean? I just, you know, as much as these kids, they're not their behaviours, they're amazing little kids. They've got some great things to bring, you know, to the world. And yeah, no, awesome. I'm stoked. Like I just want to help others. And I think if you get a job where you love your job or you can use your gifts, that's half the battle. You know, any young one starting out today, you know, just not what society tells you, you know, oh, you got to have, you know, 2 cars, a boat, a missus, 3 kids, a massive house. No. To me, success is about, you know, being happy in life and using your gifts and do what you're passionate about and what you love. And I'm in a path now where it's something where I can really make an impact and make a difference and, you know, make their lives matter and give something back.
I love that. And that's one of the reasons why I started this podcast, because I really wanted to help young people, especially, understand that the things that you see out there and the things that you see on social media aren't real, and they're not the things that you should aspire to. You know, we see far too often that there's, you know, these people out there and they have instant success overnight, and success means money and things like that, when it doesn't. You know, it really comes down to those relationships and happiness and everything like that. So I love when there's sort of a dose of reality put into things. So the people that you work with, or the youth that you work with, how old are they?
Oh, they're various ages. So, you know, it can be anywhere from, you know, 6 years of age right up to, you know, young adults, just up to close to 18. So, yeah.
So how do you prepare yourself emotionally to be able to deal with children, especially from disadvantaged and the background's, you know, quite traumatic? So how do you deal with that on your own emotional level?
Well, there's times where you've got to be equanimous to things and that, and there's the things that are probably happening to these kids that, you know, you're going to create emotions and feelings and stuff like that as well. I think it just comes back to core values is, you know, these kids, like for me, it's just, you know, they're not their situation, you know, it's not their fault. It's just compassion, you know, love, empathy, you know, understanding them, not judging them, you know, having a bit of understanding, holding space and stuff like that. And there's going to be days where I'm going to have, you know, a shitty day, and there's going to be stuff there that are going to hear that's probably going to rip me apart in some ways, you know, and because we're humans, we feel, we're emotional beings. There's tools, you know what I mean? So, you know, your mindfulness and stuff like that. You know, there might be things where they'll say something to you and they'll use wild language. Like one young lad there on Friday said something to me. I'm like, oh, whoa, you know, like, you know, sort of, you know, and I know he's just, you know, that's his reaction. And I didn't make a big deal of it. And I spoke to him and said, you know, you should speak nicely to each other. You know, you need to talk like that. You know what I mean? And, you know, sorry if what I've done or, you know, if I've hurt you, but I'm sorry, bud, you feel that way. You know, it's okay. You know, so just, yeah, they'll say things to you and you're going to probably, you know, want to, like, as we do, sometimes we're reactive. It's just a matter of sitting in that space and going, well, yeah, he hasn't had the best start and he's just lashing out and he doesn't know any better. That's all he's known. It's that fight or flight or in that system that they're in at the moment. So, but yeah, the big thing is these guys, they need consistency. They need love, you know, understanding, somewhere where they can unpack and that as well and feel safe, you know, and connection. People say, oh, kids want attention, you know, they're looking for attention. They don't want attention, they want connection, you know.
Absolutely. I think that's a fantastic point. And I think it's really sad that even in Australia today, we have so many children that are so vulnerable and have gone through so many, you know, bad things in their life. I really just, yeah, my heart goes out to them. I think it's awful. And I don't think that, you know, in a first world country, especially, that kids need to go through stuff like that at the moment. Like, it's just unacceptable. And I think it's really commendable that there's people like you that are willing to scoop them up and, you know, give them that connection and give them that love and respect and compassion that you do.
No, thank you. And there's millions and millions of amazing people on the world. That's why, you know, sometimes we wake up in the day and go, like, how shit's this world or whatever, you know, the way we look at things and go, you know, what's going on? But, you know, you think about it, the world's an amazing place and there's so many amazing people in it, you know, and it's just getting back to them basics, you know, like, you're not, anger is not going to work, you know, it's sort of a clash of heads, you know what I mean? Like, it's like, it never will work like a fire, you know what I mean? It just gets bigger and bigger and rages. But if you don't enter into that cycle of anger, you don't go in there and touch it and fuel it, you know, and you'd be, you know, calm, kind, loving. You can't fight against that. You know what I mean? If you come to an argument, someone's there shooting down your mouth or at you, and you're calm and you're still, and that, when you enter into it, that's where you're going to hit the melting pot and it's going to go off. But if you can stay calm and kind and loving that, there's nothing can really beat that. You know what I mean? Like, it's the law of life, really. You think about it.
Absolutely. I think that's beautiful. Now, how have your family dealt with the decision that you've made as well? Because obviously anything that you do in that sort of space will affect them. So how have they been with your decision?
Well, I had my young fellas because they're with their mum and that, and I had them over for dinner the other night, and my new partner's got a couple of kids, and we were just at the dinner table and stuff like that. And, you know, I sat down with my boys and had a bit of a chat, and, you know, they think it's pretty cool. They ask a lot of questions and their ears are opened up, and, you know, I can't divulge names or too much about these kids anyway. It's all pretty confidential, you know, I can just specifics, but don't go into anything too much. So, but yeah, just talk to them about it and that, and they think it's good. You know what I mean? I think it's great. The new partner that I'm with, she's amazing. Like, she's just an amazing human. She's got a big heart. She's very kind and caring, and that's what I love about her. You know, like, when I come home the other day from my first shift, and the first morning I went, and I was sort of a bit nervous on Wednesday. I had a bit of a training, and, you know, normally I do just go to things. I don't get too nervous or too phased, but I was a bit nervous and I was a bit distant because I was sort of thinking ahead, you know, and she could see that. And then when I come home in the afternoon, you know, we talk quite regularly and communicate both, like, our feelings and how we're feeling about stuff. And I come home and beautiful gesture, like, just to help me with dealing with things. And there's 2 jars. So she had one jar with making a difference on it, you know, these are the day, and then another jar with these beads in it. And, you know, each one of those beads, every day where I go to work, if I make a difference, I put their name on it. You know, I put it in the jar with them making a difference. You know, and she goes, and then in the jar there's a thing, and she's got her name in. It's like, I've made a difference to her today. And, you know, I got a little bit teary, and it's a beautiful gift. And But having someone like that in your life that understands, and she knows too with these kids, you know, like she's worked, I think, you know, with docs and stuff like that in the past, and you know, she's got a good heart, and that's what I love. We both can talk about things, and we communicate, and we can hold space. And you know, the other thing too is time out. Like yesterday, we went and had a time out, watched my young fella play footy. You know, then we go and get out in nature and just reset. You know what I mean? So just a bit of mindfulness, sitting out under the trees and that, just getting back to the basics, and you know, it's healing. You know, you get out there with have a big day or a bad day. We support each other. When she has a bad day, I'm there for her. You know, we can unpack. We don't live there. We don't live in that space all day, but we learn to unpack and let go and move on. Like this morning, go and have a swim in the ocean. That's probably the big thing for me. I love getting in the water. You know, end of the day, even when I was doing construction, end of a shitty day, you know, one shitty day doesn't make a bad day, you know, but just go and jump in the creek or jump in the ocean, wash it away, you know, and then move on.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point. You have to sort of, you know, be able to let go at the end of the day and not carry things over from one day to the other. And, you know, absolutely, you're going to be making a difference to the lives of people every single day. So, how different do you think your actual day to day routine is going to be to what you've been used to for the past 17 years?
Well, it's still the same in some ways, you know what I mean? Like, get up, when I go to work in the construction space, I was trying to keep and put it out there to keep adults safe. Now I'm going into a space where I'm keeping young ones safe. You know, and again, just building relationships, consistency, you know, listening. Active listening is a great thing. Listen to what other people have to say, and you know, hold the space. That I don't think it's no different. I think it's just they're younger, and I think maybe probably better thing that they're younger too, because sometimes working with these adults that, you know, some of their behaviours, you know, we're all humans, but some of their behaviours too. You know what I mean? So hopefully these young ones can make an impact, and there's not so much ego, and they're still young, even though they've got that trauma they're going in the core of them. They're young, innocent kids, you know what I mean? So you can actually, you know, sow a few seeds and make a big difference.
Yeah, definitely. And I think, you know, the people that you've worked with across building sites, you know, they're not always the most well-behaved, you know, people in the world. And I think, you know, to be able to put it like that you're now helping younger people, as opposed to sort of anything else is a really great way to put it.
Yeah.
Um, Kurt, I think the things that you're doing are just so amazing. And, you know, I just was tearing up when I was hearing about your partner, you know, talking about you making a difference every day. And I really think that it's something special that can't be underestimated. So if there's anybody out there that is looking to sort of do the similar sort of thing to what you're doing, how would you suggest they go about that? How would they get into something like this?
Like anything, if you're passionate about anything and you got that spark, just go for it. You know what I mean? And there's one thing that people say, you know, what if you knew that you couldn't fail? I love that saying. What if you knew if you couldn't fail? So, you know, if there's something you want to embark on, if there's something you want to do and you're passionate about, just go and do it. Have a crack. You can't fail. You can't fail. You know, go out there and try it, and do a bit of research. Look at what you want to go into. If you're passionate about it, you've already got a bit of an idea, and you've already got, you know, a few little things turning there, and you've got some education and awareness and understanding of it. You know, go and do Cert 3 in community services. Go and look at doing some psychology, or, you know, around trauma and behaviours and stuff like that. Whatever you do in life, I think if you're passionate about it and you love it, that's half the battle. You know what I mean? Because there's people that go to jobs, it's like Groundhog Day. They come home, you know what I mean? They walk around like Woodrow the dog, and, you know, it's like, you know what I mean? Or find something that you're happy about, you know, and you enjoy doing. And then, you know, people talk about success. Like, to me, success for some people is just getting out of bed each day. If they can get out of bed because of what they're going through, whatever, and they can get up and they can get on with their day, that's a success. If you love cleaning toilets and that you love that, that's a success. You know, I mean, as long as you're happy, I think happiness is just the key to success. Not about what you have and I've got a big house, I've got this and that. I think the ultimate success is being happy. And if you find something that you love and you're happy doing, that's the key to a good life. You know what I mean? So, and a happy life.
That's fantastic advice, and I 100% agree. I really think that, people have to go out there and be happy and not be afraid to fail because, what would happen if you don't fail? I love that. And that's just absolutely a fantastic motto to sort of live by. Now, Kurt, I've really enjoyed speaking to you today, but I've got one final question for you. What would you do differently if only you knew?
If only I knew. Oh, that's pretty tough. What would I do differently? I probably, sometimes where in life where I've sort of said no and I haven't gone and done something, and I'm doing more of it now, is just take the bull by the horns and say yes to more things. You know what I mean? Stepping outside my comfort zone, because what we do is we get in our sort of comfort zone and there's some things that get put out there towards us. I'd say yes to more moments and more things. Probably what I'd do differently is not believe when I was younger what other people told me, and it's only until we got older that you know that you're not those things. So, from a young age, it's hard when it's been ingrained in you or built in you or whatever, but not to do differently is not to believe, what everyone says about you, what they say about you is their business, not yours, and you just worry about you. And, just remember at the end of the day, we're all unique, we're all amazing, and, we're all good at to the core. Inside us, we're all miracles when you think about it.
Absolutely. And that's such a brilliant reflection. I really like that. Now, thanks so much for joining me today, Kurt. I've really enjoyed hearing your story, and I wish you all the best with everything that you're going to do in the future. And I know that you're going to touch so many lives and be such a positive role model for these young people. So I wish you all the best.
Thank you, Christy. Thanks for the time today. And I hope, just with a few words helps one. If it doesn't help everyone, if it helps one person, it's a step in the right direction. And I appreciate you bringing me on board for this today. And thank you for your time. Thank you.
Thanks, Kurt. If you'd like to know more about Kurt, feel free to follow him on LinkedIn, and we'll have some more info on our website, ifonlyyouKnewpodcast.com.au. Thanks, Kurt.
Thank you.